she met.
He'd been into a church down there. One of the first casualties that he was aware of was in fact another priest, the fire service chaplain. The body had been brought to one of the churches that's still standing, not too far from where the towers were, and apparently also a senior fire officer's body was there as well, and the floor of the church, he said, was covered in blood. So, very distressing scenes.
No one knew what to expect in the hours following the disaster, and at the office of the New Zealand Consul General, staff took the obvious precautions.
You know, there certainly was a sense of panic, not panic, but there was a sense of don't be in a tall building, get down to the basement, get down to the street level. It's not safe to be up high, and indeed we got all our staff out of here.
Although there won't be flights to New Zealand for a few days, it won't make a difference to the Kiwis we spoke to. They all said they won't allow the disaster to change their plans. Sharon Ferguson, 3 News.
Joining us now live from Dunedin is Dr. Robert Patman, a senior lecturer at Otago University and an expert on American policy and international foreign relations. Dr. Patman, thanks for joining us.
Good evening, John.
Hello. Let's talk about America's security intelligence system. It's so expensive, $30 billion worth, so high-tech and clearly so ineffectual. They had no warning at all that this was going to happen.
Yes, the United States seems to be caught cold by the devastating events of today. And it seems that the administration will certainly be reviewing in the next days and weeks ahead its intelligence apparatus. There have been calls already beginning to grow in Washington for heads to roll, and perhaps the director of the CIA in particular will come under some pressure. However, we have to qualify that slightly by saying we don't know at this early stage whether the information about this threat was actually in the intelligence system, but it hadn't actually reached the desks of the key decision makers. And the other possibility is that the Americans had the information in their intelligence system, but they in fact may have been preoccupied with 1 or 2 particular threats, such as bin Laden, and may have therefore neglected information already in the system.
Robert, can we look forward? What are the implications of this for Star Wars, for George W. Bush's missile defense system?
Well, I think they're pretty negative, actually. One of the sobering things which emerges from this, the crisis of the last 24 hours or so, is that even if Mr. Bush, say in 2005, had his anti-missile shield in place, it would have been powerless to prevent this type of terrorism.
Because it's so unsophisticated in some respects. Men with knives stealing planes and flying them into buildings. Star Wars is not in that league, is it?
Well, it's Star Wars is predicated on the notion that rogue states, as the Americans call them, that's states which have considerable conflicts of interest with the United States, such as North Korea, Iran or Iraq, might launch ballistic missiles in the United States. The United States has to be geared to protect that, whereas in fact I think the reality of conflict in the post-Cold War world is increasingly non-state groups are looking to mount terrorist acts via sort of acts we've seen today through hijacking planes or delivering bombs through lorries.
Can we look at the politics of it? George W. Bush's response, so far one brief speech in a sort of Churchillian mode. What does he have to do?
Well, I thought he struck the right tone as far as the American public were probably concerned today. It was defiant. But I think Mr. Bush faces perhaps the most formidable test of his presidency in the days ahead. He's someone who's not steeped in foreign policy. Some Americans are quite nervous about how dependent he is on his advisors, and if his advisors are divided on their response to this problem, then that might contribute to a slight incoherence within the United States foreign policy making with respect to this crisis. But we will have to await developments to see that.
Robert, just quickly, has the extent of the hatred for America displayed in this action surprised you?
No, I think there's been a fair degree of animus towards the United States in a number of countries. And I think what Mr. Bush has to do, as well as go after the people who are responsible for this appalling tragedy, this wanton, this dastardly act that we've seen in the last 24 hours, which cannot be condoned at all, I think Mr. Bush also has to look at some of the causes which terrorist groups are feeding off in the world. And when I talk about causes, I mean those people who've not had a fair deal out of the international system and who in fact are alienated from it. And I think America perhaps has to be more energetic in particular in trying to bring in a more even-handed fashion peace to the Middle East.
Dr. Robert Patman from our Dunedin studio, thank you very much indeed for joining us, Robert.
Thank you.
Well, there's no way of telling at this stage just how many lives have been lost in today's terrorist attack. All we know is that it will run easily into the tens of thousands and probably beyond. But when the numbers are confirmed, the majority won't be directly from the attacks, but from the collapse of the Twin Towers.
Why did the towers collapse as quickly and as suddenly as they did? Engineers from the original firm that built the towers told ABC they can only guess at this point, but they believe that the collisions themselves, the plane hitting building number 1 and the plane that smashed into building number 2, by themselves, they did not cause the collapse. It was the fire, they say, the intense fire and heat from the explosions that brought the buildings down. Temperatures inside could have built up to 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, steel loses its strength and steel beams connect every floor to the outside walls. As it got hotter, the beams got weaker, and the hot air inside began to push and press against the outside walls until the outside walls just buckled, snapped, and released the top floor, which fell onto the floor below, and the entire building sinks in a straight vertical, the floors falling faster and faster down, until you notice that every floor in the building is gone. Viewed from another angle, you can see the same thing. Notice the aerial stays vertical, just stays straight as it sinks into the building. There's no buckling or tipping, just straight down. And this happened in both buildings. The first tower, too, stayed straight as it went down, each floor falling neatly on top of the other. So the reason the towers went so quickly is because all the floors were literally hanging onto the skin. And once the skin went, the buildings went too.
The ABC's Robert Krulwich with that report. Just a reminder of the 0800 phone line set up here for New Zealanders inquiring about friends or relatives who may be involved in today's tragedy in America. That number is 0800 872 111. That's 0800 872 111 for the New Zealand Police and Foreign Affairs Helpline.
As the Star Wars trilogy continues through September, still to come, The Empire Strikes Back.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The special edition of Return of the Jedi.
Welcome, young Skywalker. I have been expecting.
And for the first time on television in our galaxy, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Proudly brought to you by Raro. The saga continues September 16 with The Empire Strikes Back.
Go on.
Nah, you go.
You're not scared, are you?
Of course I'm not scared. It's only cheese. I'm not scared of cheese.
So?
So you go.
New mainland blue cheddar. The blue cheese for people who won't touch the stuff.
6. Oh, Beginner's Guide to Home Maggot Farming. Awesome.
What will your kids be doing if you don't get Sky for the school holidays? For good family entertainment, get Sky installed from just $50. There's a cool kids movie playing every day of the holidays, including Dragonheart, A New Beginning, and the adorable Stuart Little, as well as Nickelodeon and the awesome Discovery Channel. Call now on 0800 800 759. How old are you? What do you want to achieve in the next 5 years? How about the next 10 years? How are you going to achieve these goals? Drop in or call us. Our free financial appraisal will help you fill in the blanks.
Pam Corkery and Paul Henry. More stimulating talk radio. Radio Pacific.
Ring, ring.
Here's a Bob.
Ring, ring.
I've got half a ton of wet concrete to lay. Oh, hang on a minute, I've got another call coming. Hello?
Get a choice of smartphone services and combine them with your telecom home line. All on one low monthly bill. Call us now and we'll show you how to put it together and save. The Warehouse has these Italian-made women's leather sandals only $29.99 a pair.
Save $200 when you buy Athens 2- and 3-seater sofa combo, now just